Good morning, everybody. This is Martin John, and I'm here for Tao of the Day. Tao of the Day is a study in, or I don't know, I don't want to call it a study. It's a exercise in which we pick a number between 1 and 81, and we go through the Tao Te Ching. So the Tao Te Ching is an ancient text written about 600 BCE. It's full of all sorts of enigmatic wisdom, and it has a bunch of insight for us on how to live a more reasonable life. It's got 81 short verses, and that's why we pick numbers between 1 and 81. And they provide powerful guidance on how we can live more harmoniously and in balance with Tao, or the nature of all things. So, when we want to live a more balanced life, we talk about living, or I talk about living in a reasonable way. I I focus on this idea when I talk about living in a reasonable way. What I really mean is that we don't ask things outside of ourselves to give to us, to change for us. We change, or we don't change, but we allow things to be as they are, and we just adapt and do what we need to do with those things being the way they are. When we don't want to be forced into something and someone's trying to force us into something, the best thing for us to do is walk away, not make a decision, and just or make the decision to not engage in that which we are trying to be forced to do. Now, if we end up being forced to do it, that's okay. Now, how do we respond to this moment? Because every moment is different, and there is never a mistake. You've never made a mistake. There's never been anything better than this right now. And all we have to do is allow it to be, and then say, okay, if I'm starting right here, if I exist right now for the first time, how would I make this better? And start moving in the direction of harmony, rather than playing the victim, rather than saying, well, they did this to me, or any of that kind of stuff. This is where I am, and this is how I move towards a better place without asking you to change. I don't want to change you. I don't want you to do anything that's outside of the realm of what you want to do. I want to love you as you are, and I want you to be who you are. So, this is the Tao of the day. And when you pick a number between 1 and 81, the number that you pick will resonate with that which you need to hear. And then you will hear something that is aligned with what you're dealing with right now. For some reason, I'm being drawn to number 6, the great feminine. Number 6 states, everything is born from the feminine, even heaven and earth. The feminine is that births is a mother. She nourishes and supports without possessing. Despite your awareness of it, you're using it right now. So this is Tao, right? Tao is the great mother. Everything is born from the feminine, and the feminine is in all things, right? So if you birth something, there is feminine within you. So if you're a man and you have an idea and you birth that idea and you allow that idea to gestate in you and then you take action on it, you are its mother. Now, one of the great things about being a great feminine is, or understanding our feminine and respecting it, is that we nourish and support without possessing. You know, many times we want to talk about children as our children. This is my child. No, it's a child, happens to have come from your body. That's it. Just happens to have come from your body. There's no difference between that child and another child. Now, you can have a deep connection with this child that came from your body, of course, because physically you are attached to it in, a myriad of ways. But when we when we are allowing ourselves to be a great feminine, a great mother, what ends up happening is we relinquish the idea of possession. We don't have to possess the child. We don't have to possess the idea. We don't have to possess the business. We don't have to possess those things. They're not ours. What's ours is our ability at this moment to make a choice, to allow things to be as they are. So everything is born from the feminine, even heaven and earth. And that's the thing. We have to also recognize that just because heaven and earth are born from the feminine doesn't mean that they possess only masculine qualities. All of this, everything, possesses both masculine and feminine. So, like when we look at the earth in the context of the feminine, the universe, it birthed the earth. The earth is masculine. The masculine aspect of the earth is its solidness, its stuffness, right? Its ability to be a thing. And then part of the earth is also the atmosphere, and the space and like when you get close to the earth and you stand on it, just like even the moon, when you get close to the moon and stand on it, it becomes a masculine thing, or it's a masculine thing, but it has space that we can do stuff on it, right? We could go on to the earth and we can walk around it, and then that becomes an experience not of the earth or of the moon, but of the space that the earth and the moon provide, because they have both masculine and feminine qualities. That space on the surface of the moon that we can interact with, that is part of its feminine. It created that. Without the masculine of the earth, without the masculine of the moon, it would not have been able to create the feminine of the space on the surface of the moon or the earth. And so everything is born from the feminine. So everything has both masculine and feminine qualities, but everything is born. All things that are have been born through the feminine, even heaven and earth. The feminine that births is a mother. Okay, so the feminine part of you, whether you're a man or a woman or whatever, that birthed an idea, that birthed a child, that birthed whatever, you are a mother. And because you're a mother, you nourish and support without possessing. So if it's your idea, if it's your creation, if it's your business, if it's your child, if it's your family, if it's whatever it is, you nourish and support that thing without possessing it. Meaning that when it's time for that thing to go on and live its life on its own without you, you are ready to relinquish it to itself. You are only here to support it. It's not yours. There's no possessing. Now, these last two little lines are really important to wrap this up, because what it states is, despite your awareness of it, you're using it right now. Despite your awareness of the mother that birthed you, despite your awareness of the support and nourishment that the mother that birthed you is providing, you are using it right now. And that's the great feminine. The fact that you are able to not even have awareness of the support and nourishment that you're receiving from the Great Mother, and use it. Still use it. You don't have to be aware of it, and use it you will. You will use it, and, and it doesn't possess you. It's not asking anything of you. It's not asking you to be anything. It's not asking you to do anything. It's not asking you to change in any way. And yet, you are still utilizing the nourishment and support of the mother that birthed you. We can call that God. I call it Tao, and I look at God as being something that was birthed from Tao. My experience of God and my understanding of God from an aspect of Roman Catholicism, which I was raised in, is that it is the masculine, which was born of the feminine, Tao. And so, like, whether or not people agree with that or not, doesn't bother me. But we want to look at this as, despite your awareness of the nourishment and support that you're receiving from the mother that birthed you, right? And you have birthed things, and you still support those things, even if they aren't in your possession anymore. You support them by having loved them, having nourished them, having allowed them to go. And if they were to come back, you would receive them equally. And that's what's great about that idea of the feminine. I think a lot of times people want to shut off the feminine today. They don't want to look at like, no, I'm a man, I have a penis and transgender and all of this stuff. And it's like, oh God, let's stop defining things. Let's start looking at things from a broader perspective without having to define them so singularly. Everything is as it is, and it all has aspects of all things. Everything you see is a reflection of you. And so if you see women, there is a feminine inside of you. And that feminine is birthing ideas, words, thoughts. And you support those things. You don't have to hold on to them. Some things you decide to possess, right? Some things you go out in the world and you say, I want to hold on to this because it gives me something. Then all of a sudden we're not being the great feminine anymore, right? And then we're being like a little selfish. We're like, oh, this makes me feel good about myself, so I'm going to hold on to it. I want to possess it. But that's not where that's not what Tao is asking from us. Tao is asking us to, you know, really embody this idea of let's birth things into the world and let's see what they do. Instead of trying to be egotistical and hold on to all that we do, trying to say, oh, I birthed this, so it's mine. And I'm going to conspicuously support this thing, or I'm going to utilize this to make me feel good. And then all of a sudden, it's not it's not healthy anymore. It's not balanced. It's kind of like asking your child to be your therapist. That's not what they're there for. We want to support our child where they are, not give them more baggage to carry. They have plenty. They are here so that they can unpack their baggage. Now, let's try not to complicate that by giving them our baggage. So I'm going to read this again because it is so short. Everything is born from the feminine, even heaven and earth. Everything. That means the grass, your ideas, your thoughts, anything that exists, anything that is, in any way, shape, or form, has been born from the feminine. Earth was born from the feminine. Heaven was born from the feminine. All of it. So everything has a quality of the feminine because everything can produce. The feminine that births is a mother. So if you don't birth, you're not a mother, no big deal. But you can't help but birthing. Everything both gives and receives. Some of us, like myself, get caught up in the giving aspect without the receiving aspect. And because both of them are equal, we want to look at this as like the feminine that births is a mother. She nourishes and supports without possessing. And that's a big aspect. We want to be able to support and nourish without possessing. We don't want to tell somebody, this is the way you need to be if you want my support. We want to support them regardless. And as we support them, we don't have to possess. We don't have to say, if you change, you're going to lose me and my support. No, we'll always support them, maybe differently. We might support them differently. I mean, how many of you have had experiences where you supported someone, they took advantage of it? Now you still support them, just in a different way. You support them because you love them in your heart, but you just can't have them in your life anymore. You wish them the best and you move on. And that's a big deal. It's such a big deal that we want to make sure that we really kind of swallow that and digest that idea. When you have birthed something, even if it's a friendship, you nourish and support that friendship, but you don't possess it. It's not yours. You can't say, oh, I don't want to lose that friendship. It's not yours to lose. It's yours to support. Now, that doesn't mean that the friendship, like as you define it, is going to be the same always. It could change. But despite your awareness of it, despite your awareness of the support and nourishment that you're receiving, just like the other person in the friendship, you can support and nourish them without them being aware of it. So if they come in and try and blame you for being a bad person or all this stuff, and you say, okay, well, we're just not going to engage in that way anymore. But you can continue to support and nourish them. And even without their support, without their awareness, I mean, of that, without their awareness of your support and love for them, they're still benefiting from it. They're still using it. They're still benefiting from your loving them, even if you're not in their life, because you still love them, because you are nourishing and supporting them without possessing them. They want to go out and do things. And I look at this from the aspect of drugs and alcohol. If somebody wants to go out and be an alcoholic and you're like, I can't be around that, like you're too toxic, but you still love them and you want them to go and be who they are, you allow them to go out and be who they are. And then you hold on to that love and support for them. But you don't support them in ways that are damaging to you. You don't support them in ways that are damaging, and they don't have to be aware of your support for them, but they will still benefit from it. And that's what's great about this verse, number 6, the great feminine. We all have the aspects of the great mother within us, and we have to make sure that we're just honoring that, making sure that um, we don't force ourselves to be victims of our own identity of, oh, we're a mother and this is my child, this is my idea, this is my friendship, we want to let it go. We want to let those things like ebb and flow, expand, contract, come and go as they will. All right, well, if anybody else has a number between 1 and 81, I would love to read your Tao for the day. If not, I'm going to start signing off. Okay, here is Johnny is here. Oh, Johnny, it's been so long since we've spoken. I'm glad you've come up.
Hey, Mark. John, how are you?
I am doing very well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good, thank you. I know I do listen, even though I haven't caught you live very often. I do catch up on the recordings, and
Oh, well, that's nice. Thank you.
I really appreciate what you're doing. And I know at times you've said that you've talked about consumerism, well, consuming and producing. And I'm
Yeah.
just very glad you're still producing this. So I just wanted.
Yeah. Well, it's like it is all still happening. You can't not do those things, but it is, when there are moments where I'm just kind of like, like I definitely am not on Instagram, and I'm not, and like this is a nice little spot that I can come and I can make a little thing and then just like put it down and just let it be out in the world as it is. And I'm so grateful that that you listen to it and you benefit from it. And there, like I am, like doing little things like working on the app and stuff again. So like I am going to produce things still.
Which
But
is why I'm really glad to hear that.
yeah.
And um,
And it's not there's no lamenting of it or anything. There's no bad about it. It's just an interesting experience of me kind of looking at like, huh, this is an interesting, like, my relationship to both consumption and production has shifted, and my value is no longer really attached to it. And even though like last year I would have liked to have said that it wasn't, it obviously was, and
yeah,
it
absolutely.
still is, but less so than it was.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a comment, but I'll also give you my number up front now as well.
Okay.
So my number is 37.
Okay.
Uh, a couple of comments actually. I just wish you good luck because I know you were applying for a job. So
Yeah,
I'm
that's still up in
wishing you
the
good
air.
luck.
So yeah, we'll see what happens, and will it will give me more ability, I think, to produce and consume. Where
Exactly.
right now I think that without, like, everything I'm doing now is kind of just for me, because it's like I work in my house, I do my stuff, I build my relationships, I work in the garden, I do all of these little things, and it's all for me. And so it's real
Well,
indulgent, but it's also really beautiful for me to do this. And living life means like being exposed to things that maybe you didn't, that aren't in, that you're not in control of. And I think like getting a job will be an interesting sort of experience of that again because it's been a while since I've had one. So
Yeah.
we'll just have fun kind of experiencing that for a time.
I understand that. I also think that by doing Tao of the Day, that's kind of a service to a greater community, and
Yeah.
so I know that also benefits you, but it benefits it, it benefits the wider world.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Um
so that's really appreciated. The other little quick comment I had was you've made a few references in recently to "It's all BS"
it's all
or
stupid. Yeah.
it's all stupid. Sorry, yeah, right, that's right. It's all stupid, and it reminded me of a book I read a long time ago by Anthony DeMello called Awareness, and he's like a spiritual teacher, but
Yeah.
it's really good. And one of his lines is he says it with a really loving heart, but he says, "I'm an asshole. You're an asshole," and it kind of
Absolutely.
it's kind of along the lines of "It's all stupid."
Yeah.
It's it it's if you don't take it too seriously and don't take it personally, um, you can um, you can kind of be aligned. I want to say aligned with the Tao, but you can just kind of see things more clearly.
Yeah, like when I have worked with clients and stuff, one of the things that I always like to remind them pretty quickly, and it's usually after I learn a very little bit about them, I'm like, "Oh, you're not a nice person."
Yes, exactly.
It's like it's not that you're always not a nice person, but you have the potential to not be a nice person, and that's something that often people don't want to hear, but when they can hear it from a very loving place of like, "Oh, you're not nice, and that's okay." Like nobody wants to hear that they're not a nice person, but we all have done things that are not nice. And to get rid of the facade that I'm a nice person, to get rid of the lie that like I'm telling myself that I'm good, I'm this, like it's like I'm in the right. No, you're not, and that's okay. Like there's nothing wrong with you being wrong. There's nothing wrong with you having been a jerk. Like you had things you wanted to gain out of it, and that's okay.
Yeah, and it's also the same with the lie that people tell themselves, including myself, that that I've been a victim, and
Right.
that's also just a lie. It's you
Yeah.
not taking responsibility, and it's not you owning up to your decisions and choices.
Yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and read 37. We're gonna
Okay,
see.
great.
This is entitled "Inspired Action." This is the last verse of the first part of the Tao. Now, what happens at this point is we move from the individual to kind of government or overseeing other things and other things like that. So this is kind of the culmination of the individual aspects of the Tao. This is where an individual can kind of settle, and everything kind of leads to this. So what it says is Tao never does anything, yet inspires everything to do. When beings maintain the action of Tao, they spontaneously transform from within. When that transformation acquires a name, external forces inspire actions from desire. Actions without an identity are free from external goals. Without a desire, when you honor stillness, all things are at peace.
Yeah, I love that. It reminds me of, to me, it links a little bit with another verse where
Mhm.
it talks about you can see clearly when the mud settles.
Yeah,
And for me, this inspired action
right.
comes it comes about when you can see clearly. And I've been trying to embrace this in that I have lots of things to do, or things I want to do, but I'm
Hmm.
trying to at the moment just kind of sit with it and just be with it, and just, or even meditate on it. And if I let all the noise just dissipate, the right course of action, I hope, will become clear.
Yes. And I think that's like, that is always like, that is kind of at a core of the Tao, where it's just like, just, like, stop thinking. It's not done you any good, like,
Yeah, exactly.
there's nothing here. There's nothing in your mind that is going to be better than Tao. So just allow the Tao to do what it does. So we start this verse: Tao never does anything, yet inspires everything to do. How does that land for you? Let's just kind of take this part by part.
So can you repeat that line? Tao never does anything, but in
Inspires everything to do.
I think the way that's resonated, the way I'm feeling about that is that you don't force the Tao. If you try and force it, nothing. It's not going to work. It doesn't. The Tao doesn't come through you, or so you're not aligned with the Tao if you try and force it. But if
Right,
you don't try and force it, I don't want to say go with the flow, that type of, but it's kind of
right,
along those sort of lines.
yeah,
If you can, if you can, if you can work with the universe as opposed to try and control and micromanage everything,
hmm,
it will work out.
right. So now Tao never does anything. So when we ask the Tao to do for us, there's nothing that it can do. But it can inspire us. So it does inspire us. It even inspires us to ask the Tao to do things for us. It inspires us to try to manifest. But it inspires us to try to manifest so that we can learn along the way. So it inspires us to be discontent. It inspires so that we can become content, because we are constantly seeking.
Thank you for clarifying that. I got the wrong end of the stick there, didn't I?
No, 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 no.
That's-
Everything that you said was perfect, because it does inspire us to do those things. But it inspires us to do those things so we can get what we want. But
yeah,
what we want is to surrender.
yeah,
Like, what we really want is to surrender. And we can see that in the world when you see people looking for answers everywhere.
yeah. And I've been so guilty of that. And the irony is, by looking for answers and going externally for everybody else's opinions,
Right.
you lose the inspired action that could come
Right.
through you.
Exactly. So Tao never does anything, yet inspires everything to do. So you were inspired by Tao because you needed to learn something so that you can be greater than you were.
Yeah.
Now you're in this position. Now, here's an interesting thing. This is where I kind of pick up a lot of the information for those first two lines. It's in this sort of confusing little middle section. And I love this middle section. And please, if you do run out of time, I want you to come back up. But
Great. Thank you.
if you have that time.
Yes.
When beings maintain the action of Tao, meaning they are aligned and they are clear and they're doing, you know, they are living their lives. They're not living under the influence. They spontaneously transform from within. Right? So like when you are just being, you change, you grow, and it's happened slowly. I know when I got sober, and I got 22 years clean and sober, it's like, as the more time that went by, the more I was just being sober, the more I transformed internally, the more I transformed into the person that I am today. Now, this is the interesting twist. When that transformation acquires a name, now I have in quotes here, an identity. when that transformation acquires an identity, external forces inspire actions from desire. So earlier we talked about inspiring. The Tao inspires things to do. It inspired you to do what you do. It inspired you to become strong. It inspires you to be more and more you. But when the transformation that you took acquires an identity, meaning that, this is what we can think about when we think about coaches and other things like that. Their transformation now acquired an identity of who they are. All of a sudden, external forces, money, fame, followers, all sorts of things, external forces inspire actions from desire, meaning that things that they want on the outside are inspiring them to do things because they want.
Yeah.
Now, this is the back and forth. I'm going to read these 4 lines again. When beings maintain the action of Tao, they spontaneously transform from within. When that transformation, once they start transforming, once they have an identity, once they identify with that transformation, once that transformation acquires a name, external forces inspire actions from desire.
Mm. It's kind of ironic, isn't it?
Yeah.
You transform, and in the transformation, you're given an identity. Say,
Yeah.
for example,
Yeah.
I'll
Please
come
come
back
back
if
up.
that's okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So when you transform, all of a sudden you hold on to the identity of being that which transformed. Right? Like now you're proud of your transformation. You lost all this weight, you did all of this stuff, whatever. Now you're going to go out, you're going to teach the world. You're going to teach the world because you have a desire for these external things.
Yeah, and yes, absolutely. And I think, as you've said before, there are so many life coaches around now. It's somewhat crazy.
Yeah.
But in your context, I was thinking how you were talking about going from being an alcoholic to sober,
Mhm.
and how that transformation takes time.
Mhm.
Actually, I think that
And
time is very important because we don't appreciate that in modern day society. Everything's got to happen quickly.
everything is focused on a destination. External
Yes,
forces inspire actions from desire. The desire of wanting to be somewhere. Now I'm forced. As soon as I have a desire to be somewhere, I can be a sucker for someone telling me how to get there.
yes, yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
That's your external force. So there's this kind of cycle here. I want to be healthy. Well, in order for me to prove that I'm healthy and to get reassurance that I'm healthy, I can go on Instagram and tell everybody that I'm healthy, and they can tell me how proud they are of me being healthy. And now I'm in a cycle rather than maintaining the action of Tao and spontaneously continuing to transform from within. Why? Because the transformation that I had got me to a destination I didn't know I could get to. And instead of having faith that there is yet another space that I can get to that I do not know about, I want to stay here. I want to
Yeah,
camp out and I want to be here. And I'm going to help people deal with whatever it is I just dealt with because I had a transformation. And like
yeah, and it's
now it's me, 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 me. It is no longer aligned with Tao.
and also once you give that transformation identity, that transformation then becomes a final
Yep,
destination,
that's right.
and from which you're then just looking for validation and recognition, and, as you say, external desire, which keeps you there and doesn't allow you to continue to transform.
Right. And then you say, well, at least I'm better than I was 3 years ago. Well, at least I'm better than I was 5 years ago, even though I'm not changing anymore. It's like
Yeah,
this is addiction because, when I mean for all the addictions that I've carried, like I've kept going. Like I know for smoking, and I didn't start smoking until I was in my 20s because I was trying to quit drinking and using and all of these other things. So like when I was quitting smoking, I did not like smoking for at least a year before I actually quit. And so that's a big deal. Like you might not like who you are, but you remember that it was helpful. Like I remember that smoking helped take the edge off. So I continued smoking, even though I was gross. I didn't feel good in my body. I didn't feel like I wanted to continue smoking. And yet I did it. And I did it for at least a year, maybe 2 years. I didn't like smoking. And then I finally did it. And it was hard. It wasn't easy because I recognized I didn't want to do it. But it was hard because the identity that I held as a smoker was strong. So the identity you have as someone who made a transformation is very strong. And to
Yeah.
grow beyond that, because what you do is you risk losing that success.
Okay, it's
You risk,
exactly what I was just thinking.
right.
Yes.
So you risk losing that grounding that you created. And once you lose that grounding, once you like you might fear going back to where you were before you had it. So you
Yeah.
might go back to being a victim. But the thing is we have to have faith, you know? And that's the thing. Tao never does anything yet inspires everything to do. And when you don't like something, when you don't like that, when you're scared, when you're afraid to change, that's Tao inspiring you to be afraid so that you will change. It's like you don't fear is not normal. That's inspired. It's inspiring you to feel afraid. But then you feel ungrounded because they don't have external goals anymore. Now, what are they? Actions without identity. Without that identity, when you take an action, they're free from external goals. Who knows what they're going to yield? Who knows what they're going to bring you? And if you don't know what they're going to bring you, what, like, why are you doing it?
Yeah. But that then boils down to the trust and surrender, or surrender and trust. I never know which way round it is. I don't know if we
Yeah,
trust
right.
and surrender or
Like,
surrender
but
and
then you,
trust.
right, you surrender to the inspirations that Tao is having on you, right? Tao never does anything, and I've been practicing this. I've been grateful for my lack of desire for productivity and consumption and stuff because it's just like even this morning, I think I sat and looked out the window for like an hour and a half. I just sat and looked out the window. Just wow, it's green out there. Look at that white tree. That's pretty. Wonder what kind of tree that is. Huh. Just sit here. Not a lot of squirrels this morning. And that's it. That's all I did. And now, now I'm here and then I went out and I pulled some weeds and here I am like on Tao of the Day and I got a thing tonight. I'm going to do some healing tonight and that's all just inspired. I can just let it happen.
I there's somebody else I follow, and it's actually something I've found myself drawn to doing. So every evening, I live by the Thames in London,
Oh,
so it's actually the main river that goes through London,
yep.
and every evening I just go and sit by the Thames for just you know half an hour, for an hour, or whatever,
Yeah.
and I just sit and I'm present, and stuff just comes up. It just
Yeah.
and it, I kind of get it's not meditation.
No,
It's just sitting and
sitting
being.
quietly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I call it sitting quietly. Like that's how I described my meditation practice for a long time. I just sit quietly. I don't I try not to pick up my phone. Like I don't go to my computer. I just sit, eyes open or closed, open sometimes, closed sometimes. Once again, Tao's not doing anything, but it's inspiring me to be here and do. And then eventually it'll be time for me to get up and do something.
Yeah.
And that thing I will not have even thought of. And there'll be times where I'll be doing a thing and I'll be like, wait, wasn't I just sitting at, like, looking at the, like, when did this happen? When did I start working? Like,
And
and I won't be able to pinpoint that time because I'm not present to what I'm doing. I'm present to the moment, this moment right now. And I'm like, oh, look, I'm doing something else. And I didn't know. Now, if I were to, you know, identify as that, and that's the thing, like we were talking earlier, it takes a long time to get to a place where you're not like doing heavy healing, but there is a point where it's like, oh, I'm just here. And there is healing that's happening, but it's not so obvious as it was before because before it was all the low hanging fruit. Eventually, you have to get to the upper branches. And when you get to the upper branches, it takes longer to get there. You have to take more care, because
absolutely,
you don't want them to
absolutely.
just fall.
And also, I think what you said before, in that you have a practice that's very much based on a long term view. So you
Right.
do your yoga and you have your morning routine. And I think as you build up, that accumulates and it has a momentum. And just doing it day in, day out, day in, day out, it 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 is healing. And it's healing on those sort of, on like what I like to say, there's this approach I'm fond of, is called Kaizen, and it's all about taking small steps. So you keep doing the work day in, day out, and it all adds up. And it adds up so that you do a huge amount of work, but because you've done a little bit each and every day, you don't appreciate how huge it is.
Right. Yeah. You know, someone I'm real close to talks about that as being like thump, thump, thump.
Okay.
Every day you just thump, 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 thump. And you just do the thing, and then eventually you look up and you see, wow, I've come a long
Yeah.
way. And I didn't even know. Like that was one of the big questions for me when I was younger. It's like, wait, when did I become awesome? Like
Yeah.
I had no idea when it happened. Like I don't know when I became me. Like I remember a time when I wasn't who I am, but I don't know what it was that changed it all. And that's what this one is really talking about. It's like, look, you're going to spontaneously transform from within. Don't identify with it. Because if you identify with that transformation, then that transformation is going to get you off of the path that got you here.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So it says, look, when beings maintain the action of Tao, they spontaneously transform from within. Period. When those transformations, and I suppose it could be like if and when those transformations acquire a name, external forces inspire actions from desire. And all of a sudden, you are trying to be something for someone or for something else. Actions without identity. This is where we want to be. Are free from external goals, without desire, and honoring stillness. All things are at peace. Because when you have a desire, stillness is not part of the plan. When you have a desire, what we do in this world is work for it. We have a goal. We're going to work towards it. Every day we're going to do this thing. We're going to make it. We're going to get closer and closer and closer. And the thing is the stillness is going to get you a lot closer than the actions.
It's going to get you there a lot faster, actually.
Yeah, yeah,
And I missed that line. Oh wow! So honoring stillness.
yeah.
Sorry, honoring
Without
still.
desire and
Okay.
honoring stillness. So that's like without desire, comma, honoring stillness, comma, all things are at peace. So
Okay.
when we say without desire, all things are at peace, sure, but we want to kind of push home this idea of without desire, honoring stillness, because desire doesn't promote stillness.
No.
Once we have desire, there is this nugget in our mind that won't be still because we want something to be different. And when I talk about this idea, and you must have heard it, this idea of like um, reasonably.
Yes.
Living reasonably is like not asking things to change. This is as it is, and it's perfect right now as it is. It's not a judgment. It's just this is perfect, which means like, once you say nothing's perfect, that's a judgment, you know. But when we say everything's perfect just as it is, it's like there's no judgment there. It's just like there's an acceptance. There is a surrender to this moment.
I'd never got that before. I always have such resistance to that phrase, everything's perfect. But then I have the resistance because I don't have the acceptance.
Right. Because there's
And
judgment.
because there's judgment. Yeah.
Yeah, there's judgment because like it could be better. It's just like,
Yes,
no,
exactly.
it can't. Because if it could, it would be. And the better is the judgment. And the thing is that there is nothing better than this because this is what is. We can always say, yeah, but if I had a piece of cake, it's just like, well, then once you have a piece of cake, like, then what? And then it's like, well, 2 hours later, if I didn't eat that piece of cake, I wouldn't be bloated.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's always something that people can desire. But without desire and honesty and stillness, all things are at peace. That's the thing. Like when you're not sitting here thinking, when your mind isn't racing about all the things that could be, you can just be here, peaceful. Take your action without an external goal. Do whatever needs to be done.
Yeah, that's lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Martin John. I will
Uh,
take that into my day and into my weekend.
mm,
And I will be thinking about I'll be sitting still
yes.
and action to come forth. Good luck with the job, and I hope you have a
Definitely.
lovely weekend.
Oh, you as well. Always wonderful connecting. Yeah, this one is entitled Inspired Action. So it's great to be able to um, have inspired action and move forward with inspired action.
Hey,
Hello, how are you,
I'm
dear?
okay. I want to pick a number out today because I've been wanting to hear Tate. Oh God, I can't say it. Uh, what? How you say it?
Tao.
Dow. Okay,
Yeah,
Dow.
think of it like a D, like think of it Tao. It's pronounced Tao De Ching or Tao of the day. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna pick. I always say 17. I said seven already. What's another one? Let me see. Let me see. You said from 1 to 100
Eight,
something. I forgot.
1 to 81.
1 to 81. Okay. Let me see. 22.
22. Off we go. 22 is entitled Looking Away from What You Want. So we were just talking about desire. We were just talking about the idea of having these wants in us. And now we're going to be looking at a verse that says, looking away from what you want. Now it's a little bit longer. So stick with me. We'll go through the whole thing and I'll ask you what you think, and then we'll go through it part by part.
Okay.
So what it says is to become complete, you must first know you're partial. To become straight, you must first know you're crooked. To become full, know that you're empty. To be new, know that you're worn out. He who wants it all must know what all includes. Thus, the master stays centered in Tao and becomes an example for the world. Because she knows her light is forfeit, people can see it. Because she has no point to prove, people can trust her words. Because she has no identity, she becomes a mirror for others. Because she has nothing to attain, nothing can be kept from her. Thus, when it is said to become complete, know that you're partial, it is wise to heed and surrender to it. Only by living in collaboration with Tao can one find completion. That's it. What are your thoughts?
Well,
Again, long.
I think that you are right. We should look away from things we desire because we can think about it too much, and once you think about it too much, then it overtakes you, and then you start wanting that thing over and over again.
That's right. Yep. And what we're looking at here, and I know your mom must have come home or something. What we're looking at here is the beginning part is really an important sort of groundwork, because to become complete, know that you're partial. The idea here is like, what do you want? Do you want to be complete? So many people are out there in the world saying, I want to be more. I want to be bigger. I want to be stronger. I want to be this. Like, I want a partner to complete me. I want this, I want that. To become straight, know that you're crooked. Once you start looking at the things that you want, know that you probably want those things because you're
Right,
not those things. Or you don't see yourself as those things. But you do, like, you are complete. Just because you don't see yourself as complete doesn't mean you're not. But first recognize that you're partial.
right,
So, at the end of this grouping, it says, he who wants it all must know what all includes. And that's the thing, as children, we're like than I was yesterday. Like, it's like it's always changing. Things are always changing. And he who wants it all, when you want it all, when you want all the money, when you want all the love, when you want all the attention, when you want all of that stuff, you have to know what all includes. You can't know if you're tall if you're living around a bunch of people that are 4 feet. If you're 5'6", you'd be like, you might live live amongst a bunch of people that are 4 foot. You'd be like, I'm tall, I'm tall, I'm tall, until you recognize that you're short, because 5'6" is short, relatively. I mean, it might be standard for a woman, but Um. So,
I'm 5'7".
see, you're tall. So there's the thing. Like,
Yeah,
that's the like. You don't know what you are until you experience the opposite. All of the identities we
right,
have, which is like, how do you know you're smart until you feel dumb? Then oh, I don't feel
right.
like that anymore.
Martin,
Yep.
Martin, Martin. I gotta get
All
going
right.
because I have to eat my food. But I'm
All
listening.
right. I'll
Okay,
continue talking about 22, and then you just listen. All
okay.
right.
All right. See you
Bye bye.
later.
Okay. So this one continues with, like, when to become complete, know that you're partial. To become straight, know that you're crooked. To become full, and this is all opposites. Like, opposites exist not because they it just happens that way. Like, opposites exist because we create one. When you create one, the other is created also. Once you say, this is beautiful, guess what you just created? Ugly. That's what you do. And so when you say, oh, I want to be beautiful, well, you want to be beautiful because you're experiencing ugly. And that might be within you, might be outside of you, or whatever, but you've experienced one, so you want the other because this one feels better, this one looks better, whatever. Then we move on. The reason, right? And so, like, every time you want something, you have to look away from what you want and recognize how you're seeing, what your perception is. And because of that, the master stays centered in Tao, because there's no winning in that. So the master stays centered in Tao and becomes an example for the world. The idea being that I'm not going to be empty because I don't want to be full. I'm not going to be partial because, I'm not going to be complete or partial. It's all going to be just being. It's just going to be me being. I want to be straight. I'm going to recognize I'm crooked and move on. Because she knows her light is forfeit, people can see it. So soon as you recognize that your light, the light inside you, isn't something that you can cage or box in, once you know that it's forfeit, meaning that it could be given up at any time, you can die at any moment. Once you recognize that, then people can see your light. Once you let go of the fear of dying, the fear of living, the fear of being sick, the fear of being crippled, the fear of doing all of these things, once you let go of that, the light inside you will be seen by everybody. Because she has no point to prove, people can trust her words. This is a big deal because I think a lot of people have a lot to prove today. They want to prove they are their identities. And when they do that, they do silly things that try and make people believe who they are, and you can't trust them because they're trying to prove something to you. If they're trying to prove something, they can't be being too honest, because they have a desire to be proving something to you. So they want to be seen in a certain way. They want to be treated in a certain way. Because she has no point to prove, people can trust her words. Because she has no identity, she becomes a mirror for others. This is something that I try to be when I do my portraits and other things like that. I try and just allow it all to be as it is. That way, when I don't hold on to an identity of who I believe I am, I can just be seen by other people as they are. They can just see me. Because she has nothing to attain, nothing can be kept from her. If I don't go out of my way to try and get stuff, stuff just finds its way to me. And that's it. Because I have nothing to attain. I don't want $1,000,000, so there's room in my life for $1,000,000. When I want $1,000,000, guess what? There's a bunch of space taken up by the want for $1,000,000, and it's not going to come to me. Now we can look at that in a lot of different ways. If you don't want, you can't have. Da 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 da. And there are things, but really allowing and not having anything to attain, not trying so hard to be something, not identifying so readily, then nothing can be kept from her. Thus, when it is said, "To be complete, know that you're partial," it is wise to heed and surrender to it. Only by living in collaboration with Tao can one find completion. Tao is here. It's always been here, whether you know it or not. It's always just working under the surface. And you're living in collaboration with Tao. Tao has things that it wants to achieve. Tao has things that it is achieving. You have things that you're achieving. The best way to do those things, and both of you just surrender. If Tao said, "Oh, I want you to be this way," well, then it would be possessing. So it presents you with yourself, and you get to live as you are. That means when things change, you change with them. And that's it. You don't desire things to be different than they are. You are as you are, and you live as you live. And that will be in alignment with all things. Thank you so much for joining me for Tao of the Day. This is Martin John, which is coming up on an hour. I appreciate everybody that stopped in. If you benefit from the work I do here on Wisdom and with Tao of the Day, consider giving a tip over at Venmo at @MartinJohn_Garcia. If you are in the Chicagoland region, tonight I will be over at Satnam Yoga Chicago doing portrait healing as I do usually every month. And I am looking forward to seeing you if you will be attending. Thank you so much for all of your attention and all of your participation, Johnny and Sparkly Queen. We will be in touch. I appreciate you endlessly. Thank you so much. And until next time, keep recovering yourself.